steelhead season's officially over for me. I know there's still some rivers open and a few fish trickling in, but I'm already changing gears, starting to think about spring Chinook and bass fishing. Daryl, John, and I are going to hit the lower Willamette next week. We were going to go today, but the river was still just a little bit too turbulent. So hopefully that settles down so we can hit that next week. I've already spooled up some of my bass rods and I'm hoping to look for some largemouth soon as well. So in this video, I'm going to cover my thoughts on winter steelhead season 2022-2023. I'm going to talk about some gear changes that I made throughout the season, and I'm going to tell you what's coming next. So let's get started and we'll chat a little bit about this crazy winter steelhead season. Oh God, it's a big one. Oh my God, it's a big fish. Oh my God. Well, this winter steelhead season's been a tough one. I've been keeping a journal since 2009, and this is the worst season I've had since 2014. Now, it was still a decent season. I still got into some awesome fish, but a lot of the days I was fishing, I was really working for one hookup, which is completely fine with me. Generally, if I can hook one awesome fish, I'm completely satisfied. But there's a few things that I thought about as far as this season that I think has kind of contributed to the low numbers. To start out with, in January, the rivers were really high. It's not that there's not fish in the rivers when they're high, they're just a little bit harder to target. I know Jacob and his friends were getting into some fish in January, but they were working pretty hard for them. I didn't have a hookup until I believe it was January 19th. Yes, it was, because it was the day before my birthday. But that day I had 4 hookups, ended up landing 2 beautiful fish. I had one that I finally had to hold the spool on and let go, and then one just ultimately came unpinned. But I've had some good days. I've been skunked a few days, but that's just the way winter steelhead season goes, or steelhead fishing goes in general. So the other thing that happened during this winter steelhead season is we had that February drought. I don't remember the exact dates as far as when the rain stopped, but most of the coastal rivers got down to that really low level where it's low and clear. There's still fish around, but they're very spooky because the water's low and clear, plus it was really cold. Steelhead road trip this year was a lot of fun. David and I got into a few fish, but we were dealing with low, clear water. And since we were fishing new spots, we didn't really know those spots that, you know, like on my home rivers, I know that even in low water, I can go hook some fish in. These were new rivers to us, so we just had to go and give it our best. And I only caught 1 fish all weekend, and David ended up hooking 3, and he landed 1. We had some footage issues and lost the footage to the first fish, but he hooked a second one on the second day, got it right to his feet. While we're deciding whether or not we're going to keep it, it ends up breaking his line, and then he had a 3rd bite and it just came off the hook. Then we go into March and we have a crazy amount of rain. I even had an opportunity to mount the scope on my new rifle and go outside it in. There was a week I didn't even do any fishing. So yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. You have high water to extreme low water to high water. Everybody was catching fish that I normally see pictures on, like, let's say Instagram, but I think that people were struggling, and that was kind of the theme across the board. So as a reminder, all the footage I obtained in March is going to be released during my Steelhead December series. The reason I started doing that is in 2020 I released some winter steelhead videos in April, and they just didn't get very many views. And I hate to see good footage get wasted in the mix like that. So in 2021 I saved my March footage and did my first Steelhead December series. It was called Steelhead Stories, where I released 5 new videos on Fridays, and then I did gear and tip videos in between. That was a success. So last year, 2022, I did the same thing with the Steelhead Adventure series, and then I did the How to Catch Steelhead series. So there's 5 Fridays this December, so I have a video planned for each one from separate trips, from footage that you haven't seen. So make sure to watch for those, and I have some gear and tip video ideas as well. If there's anything you want to see, leave a comment below and I'll be happy to take a look at your video idea. So now let's go over some gear changes and updates that I've made throughout the season. If you've been following along, you know that I started the season fishing a couple of striker rods, and I have 2 of this model right here. It's the 9'9" spinning model. It's a medium power, moderate action. And as I guessed, they performed very well. I gotta use them on some very tough fish. I'm sure you've seen some of that footage already. But if I haven't gone over the components of these rods, they are hand rolled here in Eugene, Oregon. I've been to the factory several times and was able to actually witness how they're being made. They have quite the operation going on. The guides and the reel seat are made by a company called Alps. You can go on Alps website and kind of look at the components if you want to. The guides are zirconium. Now the actual handle, this portion here, they're the CFX handle, and they're made, I believe, by Elevated Fishing. Again, they're very high quality rods. Like their manager Josh told me, they are a custom rod in a production setting, and I couldn't agree more. You noticed in Steelhead Road Trip that I had taken a couple of E6X G.Loomis rods. Now the story behind that is after Steelhead Road Trip 2022, we had got into some big fish, and so I bought this rod because it's a medium heavy. It's a 9'6". It's a 8 to 17 pound test spinning rod. So I had this for over a year, and I had given my 2 E6X rods to David, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna bust this out. And I had bought E6X in the 1143, which is one of my favorite rods I've ever owned. The Gen 1 is what I gave David. These are considered to be the Gen 2, and I had got a question about that, and you can kind of see the cork goes over the reel seat. On the Gen 1, you can see some of David's footage. The front of the cork ended about right here, and then the cork was kind of inside the reel seat itself in the Gen 1 model. So these are both Gen 2s. They both have Vanfords on them. But during this Steelhead road trip, I took them just to try them out, and I really like them. I really missed having the G.Loomis. The way I kind of equate this, the best way I can explain it, because this is nothing against the striker rods, because they definitely are high quality rods, but it's kind of like a baseball player. A new bat company comes out and he's like, man, I want to try that out, I've heard good things about it, and they use it, have some success, but there's something about that old bat that they just kind of have comfort in and they go back to, and it's just more the comfort of the G.Loomis rods. So moving on to camera equipment. Now, if I haven't explained it before, all the money I make on advertising or in Amazon Associates, I reinvest in the channel. And what I've done over the last several years is I've just updated my GoPro each year. And that way I can use the older models as either my tripod camera, like I'm actually using my Hero 10 as my tripod camera, and then I'm using my Hero 9 as my loaner camera. Like David was wearing this and Jacob was wearing it throughout the season. But I have to say, the Hero 11 has been the highest quality GoPro that I've used. It seems like all these things are glitchy, and I've had problems with the 9 and the 10, and sometimes it could just be a software update that you gotta make sure to upload and check on periodically, but this thing has been awesome. The image stabilization's great. I've been recording in 4K 60 frames per second this year, and that way when I have a fish on and it's jumping, I can slow that down and you can actually see the fish, and it's just a little bit clearer. It makes a little bit more sense. So anyway, that's been an awesome camera. So I highly recommend, if you don't have GoPros, the 11 is awesome. So speaking of cameras, I literally just got this before I started filming. It's a GoFish inline camera. So this is a camera that you can actually attach to your fishing line and get underwater footage. I haven't even taken a look at it, but this is money that I earned in February and March, so I just reinvested it in this camera. I figured we're getting ready to do some spring Chinook fishing. We're still trying to figure out how to rig this up to where we can have like a view of the actual bait without interfering with the triangle flasher and the weight, but we'll figure that out, or we're gonna try anyway. So let's go ahead and open it up. I haven't even seen one of these cameras in real life. There's a YouTube channel called Fish with JD. It's JD Ritchie's YouTube channel, and he uses these cameras and he has some incredible stuff. I'll put a link above if I can. I don't know if I can link his videos. I'm pretty sure I can, but I'll put a link above to some of his videos. Make sure to watch some of his takes. One of the most crazy things that he has recorded and has shared is that he's had fish come up and strike lures and he didn't even know it, because what happens is sometimes the fish approach the bait so fast it causes a slack line. I've had that happen like when I'm steelhead fishing with spinners, where all of a sudden you have a slack line and the fish will spit it out before you even know what's going on. But this can kind of confirm it. So thank you, GoFish. What do I got here? Thank you for your order. Okay. Tight lines. Alright. So this is the first time I've even looked at one of these. I just figured I better do it. I ordered some extra parts. They were only a few bucks, like an extra lens and an extra tailpiece. and I ordered a float. I'm real eager to try this next winter steelhead season, where you can put this camera inside this float and hook it up to a jig or a bead or something like that. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to cast all this, but we'll figure that out later. Let's get this thing open and just kind of see what it looks like. So I should mention that the other thing I did with this is for 50 bucks you can get a year of insurance coverage basically. So if you lose the camera and you're able to prove it to them, they will give you a new one time. So I figured I might as well do it. Also, when I signed up, they have a thing where you can get 10% off your first order. And so I only ended up paying, let's say $45 for the insurance plan in addition to the camera. So just so you understand, the camera is actually $199. I know that's a lot of money, but I'm pretty interested in trying these out. Get this stuff out of the way. Okay, so this is the first time I've seen it. So just to kind of, let me get like a steelhead float so you can kind of see the sizing. So here is a AF5 half-ounce Hawken float. Just to kind of give you guys perspective, so it's just slightly bigger than the size of an AF5 half-ounce. Now this takes a micro SD card, just like I use in my GoPros. Pretty nervous to lose this thing. Alright, but that's it right there. Try to cover my face so it can kind of focus on the actual camera. But again, it's just a little bit bigger than that AF5. So yeah, so this side is the lens, and this is kind of the tail section. So you put your main line on this, and then you just put your leader below it. And I'm thinking that we'll probably have to have the triangle flasher for salmon fishing anyway above it, because I don't think you want to see that triangle flasher, especially if you have 3 or 4 feet of leader to your herring. You're gonna want a closer view of the actual bait to see the fish coming up behind it. But it's completely new to me. Now let's kind of see how this whole float thing happens. Insert rear cap. Oh, okay. So you insert it this way actually. That makes sense because otherwise if you put the camera on the top, I'm assuming it would be too top heavy. So you would somehow do this number and just pray you don't get hung up. But obviously you're going to be using braid most likely to the top portion of this, and then some sort of a either fluorocarbon or mono leader. So there you have it. So thank you for all of the views, because that's what's enabled me to buy new equipment like this. So I'm going to try my best to deploy this during the salmon fishing trip that Daryl and I have planned this week. So let me get this stuff out of the way. Well, actually, well, what do you know? It actually comes with a float. So I guess I have 2 floats, and then it just has a cable for the camera as well. So another addition that I had to my gear this year was a pair of Smith Redding glasses. Now these are the low light igniter lens. So just so you understand, the amount of VLT, which is visible light transmittance, is the amount of light that is allowed through a lens. So like a regular sunglass lens, like a gray one, is usually about 10% VLT, and what that means is 90% of the light is taken out. These are 33%, which means they only take out about 66% of light. That way you can really see well at first light, last light, and if it's cloudy or rainy. Recently, Lamaglass had posted a picture of one of the gals that they feature. I want to say that she's like a Great Lakes angler, but that doesn't really matter. She had taken a spinner to the eye, and they had posted a GoFundMe link for her, and I read that. She had taken a spinner to her eye from another fisherman. Now I know I've probably told you this story before, but one time I was fighting a steelhead I had hooked on a spinner. It was in a trough right in front of me. My Loomis was loaded, and the fish jumped, and that spinner came out of that fish's mouth like a bullet. It hit me right between the eyes. I was very thankful that I had glasses on. So it's more than just being able to see the riverbed, it's also protecting your eyes. So the Smith Reddings, these are made out of actual glass, like the lens itself, and they're an amber lens. I wore them the last part of the season, and the last day that I actually fished, it was very cloudy, rainy, and I had them on all day, regardless of light conditions. Yes, they're not the coolest looking glasses in the world, but to me, it's like I want to wear glasses even if it's super low light. I will do another video later on where I go over each pair of polarized glasses that I have and the application for each. But always wear glasses, not only to protect your eyes from projectiles and hooks, but also so that you can see the riverbed. So another piece of equipment I wasn't planning on updating this year is my iPhone. Now, I had a little mishap while I was steelhead fishing, and I was releasing this beautiful wild hen. I was down in the water with her, I was by myself, and the front of my waders got down in the water a little bit, and my phone was in that pocket right there, so it compromised it. So I ended up getting a new iPhone. This is the 14 Pro, but more importantly, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm going with a Lifeproof case. And if you don't know what that is, I used to run them on all my older iPhones before supposedly these new iPhones are water resistant, which that 11 Pro didn't get very much water on it and fried it. But a Lifeproof case is completely waterproof. You can completely submerge this and it's not going to compromise the phone at all. They're expensive. I want to say I paid 90 bucks for it, mainly because it's the newest model phone, and usually they're a little bit steep at first, but they do come down in price. I'll put the link to this one down below in the description. But if you want to consider one of these cases for your phone, you can obviously just search Lifeproof case and just your phone model. So now let's go over what's to come. Now Daryl, John, and I are planning some spring Chinook fishing trips, but I tell you, the water is still pretty high and turbulent. It's raining like crazy outside right now. I'm recording this on Monday the 17th. So hopefully the water comes down and we have plans to go out this Friday. So at the time you're watching this video, we'll just be finishing up with our first trip, or let's hope we are finishing up our first trip. So Janine and I have some trips planned to the coast already. She really loves surf perch fishing and she's really good at it. So watch for those videos coming up. I'm also gonna start doing some bass fishing. I really enjoy fishing for bass this time of year because the big spawners are very aggressive. I also have some gear and tip videos planned, like I'm going to do a video on how to build trout spinners, and I got a new chest pack for trout fishing, so I'm going to do a gear review on that as well. So if you're still watching, I'm gonna assume you're one of my loyal subscribers, or maybe you just walked away from the computer or TV and forgot to turn it off. But regardless, I wanna thank everybody for following along. I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers. It's not quite enough to pay the bills, even though it would be a dream to go full-time YouTube. Regardless, I've had some questions about the t-shirts I wear. I had some made at the end of 2022 and just didn't have the time with all the filming and editing to offer them for sale. But I still have a few left. They're 25 bucks plus shipping. I can generally get priority shipping for under 10 bucks if it's like local, Oregon, Washington, that kind of thing. But they're a tri-blend shirt. They're actually pretty decent quality. A local company, Eugene Silkscreen, made them up for me. But I have some men's mediums. I think I have 2 or 3 of those left. I have a few larges. I have 8 or 9 XL men's, and I have a couple sizes in women's. I believe I have a large and a couple XLs, and the women's are the ones that kind of have like a shorter arm and they're more of a fitted design. But if you're interested in buying one, just email me at ragefishing@aol.com. I know AOL, you got mail. Send me an email and we can get that started. You can pay with Venmo, or if you even want to, you can send me a check. So if you have any questions about anything I covered in the video today, make sure to leave them in the comment field below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.